Very honored to be sitting down with Mr. Daniel Arroyo today, original member of Chicano's Pride. So before we get into the lowride history, can you just tell me about your background in San Jose and your involvement with the Movimiento?
Well, I got involved in the Chicano movement back in 1968. I was living in Soledad, and these guys from a group called the Black Berets came over there because there was a hassle going on between the two Chicano teachers and the staff over there. And we met up with them, and he talked. I mean, he really. I was Chemo Cel Candelaria. He's the founder of the Black Berets, and I like what he said and stuff. Here I am, a vato loco from the streets. They didn't give. I was a tecato at the time because I was a heroin addict at age 14. In Soledad, you hung around with the tecatos, and they taught me how to steal, how to fight. I was just an old vato loco, a young vato loco. They got me interested into the Chicano movement, so I got into the Black Berets. We started the South Monterey County Youth chapter. The South Monterey County Black Beret chapter in South Monterey County, and we were involved with security with Cesar Chavez and stuff like that. And in '69 we went to a thing in Watsonville. There was a protest, and we were doing security because there was a demonstration going on at the city hall, and right next door was the police department. So all the cops were out there. So what we did is we formed a human chain between the cops and the people. So if the cops came in, we'd push them back. And one guy got arrested, and they took him to jail. And the whole crowd, there was about maybe 300 of us. We all marched to the jail because they arrested him for trespassing. And we all demanded to get arrested for the same thing. So they cut him loose. And I missed school that day. I was in Gonzales High School. I missed school. And the next day I went to school with a note, to excuse me, saying I was sick. When I handed the note in, the San Jose Mercury was right on the front desk, and my picture was right on the front page with the Black Berets like this. And I got kicked out of school there. So in '69, I moved to San Jose with the Black Berets, so to continue my education. So I got into Overfeld High School. I was there 2 weeks. I got kicked out because I was labeled a communist at the time. And I got kicked out of Overfeld High School because I organized the Chicano Student Union there. So I got out of there. San Jose High didn't want me. Lincoln didn't want me. James Lick didn't want me, so I went to Piedmont Hills. I was there for 2 weeks, and then I got kicked out of there because I organized the Maya Club, the Mexican American Youth Association. So I got kicked out of there, so I got deprived of my high school diploma. That's how I came to San Jose. There was a lot of violence going on. A lot of police the police brutality, arrests, being harassed by the raza and stuff. By the police. We were like a security force, and we were organized, and we tried to educate the people, try to get Chicano studies into the schools and stuff like that. And that's what brought me to San Jose.
While you were a Black Beret, is that when you met the original members of Chicano's Pride?
Well, I'd go back a little bit. The Black Berets, the way they originated is back in the 50s, they were a gang called the Jackson Kings.
Okay.
And the reason they called themselves the Jackson Kings because they were in the Barrio Salsipuedes, and their territory was from King Road to Jackson Street.
Oh, okay.
So they would call themselves the Jackson Kings, and some police brutality and stuff started going around. So they started noticing it, and then they formed from the Jackson Kings came about the East Side Youth Boys. No, the East Side Boys. That's what they call themselves. And they were working with the community, with the youth center over there. And from there, eventually, they came over, they turned over to the Black Berets. Black Berets formed in 1959. That was before the Black Panthers, before the Brown Berets, before all that. Yeah. And Chemo, the founder, he's very active in the community and mostly working on police brutality and stuff. But the way lowriding came into it, because, lowriding has been in our culture for years. I remember we used to stick sacks of cement or bricks and stuff in our cars to lower them. And when I came over here, we used to lowride. We used to cruise First Street. but mostly gabachos are there, lowriders, they didn't really care about us too much. And then we started going to the parks. This is probably in about 1970. We started going, all the cars started going to the parks, and we started off at, I think it was Arroyo Park. We were there for a while, and then in 1971, there was a big riot over there. I don't know if you heard about it or not. Yeah, we call it, I was involved with the Black Berets. We had an office called the People's Legal Defense that we coordinated with some lawyers that would be backing up the community. And the police went over there and they started a riot with the lowriders over there. I think there was 2 Chicanos killed, and I think there was a cop killed, if I remember correctly. One of our Black Beret members was over there. Her name was Doreen Garcia. She was pregnant at the time. The cops got her, 1 cop in each arm and 1 cop in each leg. They picked her up and they beat her with a club. So, we got kicked out of there, and just kept going on and on with the lowrider community. Well, the lowriders and the cops, they just seen us as a bunch of gang members and stuff like that. All we did want to do was show the cars,
Right.
We just like our cars. And we went from there. We went to another park by Overfeld. I don't know if you know where Overfeld is. Overfeld High School.
Right. Yeah.
There's a park over there, and we used to hang out over there. And again, the cops came in. We threw chingazos at them. And they kicked us out of there. So then, from that park, we went to Center Road Park, Kelly Park. And we used to hang out over there, and the same thing. We were having confrontations with the cops, the lowriders and the cops, and they kicked us out of there.
What do you think the reason was that cops were focusing on lowriders, or like it was a group of Chicanos, right?
They didn't want Chicanos getting together. They had a stereotype that once you get more than 3, 4, 5, 6 Chicanos together, you're a gang.
Yeah.
And you're just out there fighting, causing trouble and stuff like that. So that's the stereotype that's the way they thought it was, a stereotype.
Right.
And they said they kicked us out of that park. Then we went back to Arroyo Park, and we used to cruise over there. This is about 1971, 72, and we were having hassles with the cops. I was with the Black Berets at the time. We got together with the sheriff's department, because the sheriff's department was the ones that were patrolling the parks and stuff. And they agreed to let us have what's called Coyote Park. They gave us that park because it was way out there on Coyote Road. And we renamed it La Raza Park. And that's where they wanted, away from the city and stuff. They just had us away. And that's where we started hanging up, and the cops were not allowed to go in there. But they'd be up on top of the road looking at us, watching us. We had a drug problem, we'd take care of the drug problem. Girls get too letter on KJ, we'd take them out. That's with the Black Berets. We're working with the lowrider community.
Okay. So you're self-policing yourself.
Yeah,
right?
that's what we were doing.
Just regulating and parking and all that. So then at what point did Chicano's Pride form together as an official group?
Okay, Chicano's Pride, we started talking about it back in about 1974. Me and Maturi, his name is Marcelino Hernandez. I lived in the corner of Peach Court and Bonita, and he lived on Peach Court, right across the street. I had a 50 Chevy coupe, but I named her Fifi because it was a Fifi Chevy. And Maturi had a 50 Chevy Fleetline. He had a 50 Chevy Fleetline 4-door Deluxe, and he had a 41 Chevy. So we started talking and stuff, and we were talking about old cars and stuff, and we were talking, man, we ought to start a club, of nothing but old cars.
Okay.
And that's the way we started talking about it, and we started cruising together. We'd go and hang out at Wiener Schnitzel and different places, and down the street from Peach Court on Bonita was this other guy. He's from Stockton. His name was Randy Hernandez. He had a 54 Chevy. So we went and we talked to him, and we were telling him, well, we're thinking about starting a club. And he said, hey, that sounds like a good idea. And we were cruising around for a little while, still kicking the idea around.
Yeah.
And figuring out how we're going to do this. And then we ran into Simon Perez. And he had a 53 Chevy. And those were, I would say those were the 4 original Chicano's Pride that got together. That was before we even had a name. And then we were thinking, well, what are we going to call ourselves? What are we going to call ourselves? And we were kicking around a bunch of names, like Bombas and stuff like that. And Randy came up with the name Chicano's Pride. And we say, why Chicano's Pride? He said, because you know what? Our pride is in our cars. So that's what we are. We're Chicanos, and we're proud of our cars. So that's how the name Chicano's Pride came about.
Okay.
Later on, we started meeting other people as we got together, like Tony Catucci. He had a 52 Chevy. We officially became a club. Our first plaques, Simon made them because he was a welder. They were made out of steel. He got a blowtorch and he cut them out of steel, and he grinded the edges off, and we'd have them chromed. They would say Chicanos, Pride, and on the bottom it would say Sanjo. And there was a little bitty thing in the middle. And the reason for that is because at the time, a lot of lowriders would put a Mexican flag in the back of their window. And on their jackets, most Levi jackets, we wore a Chicano flag. I mean, a Mexican flag in the back.
Yeah.
So that little space was for sticking a Mexican flag on it.
Okay. Yeah. So I've seen a photo of that original plaque, and yeah, it had like the little flag on the bottom. So that was the original version of the plaque, and it changed a couple times after that, I guess.
Yeah. The one that you've seen is a copper one. It's made out of bronze, right?
Yeah.
Okay, the first ones were made out of steel, and they were chromed.
Okay.
And then, we started getting more and more members, so it was too hard cutting them out with torches, so we went to a foundry and started having them mass produced.
Copies, yeah. I know on the phone you told me that it was pretty much all Chevys
Yeah.
at the club. Is it because it just happened that everyone had a Chevy? Or
Well, yeah.
that was the look you guys wanted?
Chevys was the thing that most Chicanos like. Everybody likes a Chevy. And old Chevys, our rules at that time was from 54 Chevy on down. Nothing newer than a 54 Chevy. The reason for that is because all our parts, generators, carburetors, and everything were interchangeable. And when we do a run like to Fresno and stuff like that, if we broke down a starter or something, we'd all have parts.
Both part of the style and being practical at the same time.
Yeah,
right?
and we were a family club. We involved our wives, our kids. We were all. It was just a family club. Well, I think we were the first family club around.
And so everyone was related that was in the club, other than being friends.
Yeah,
And then,
our wives were involved. We had our jackets, and our women had T-shirts, and our kids had T-shirts also. The reason for the kids to have T-shirts is if we go to car shows or gatherings and stuff like that. You have kids sometimes get lost and stuff. They'll wander off, and if they get lost, they know what club to take them to. So we're watching, we're thinking ahead. So this could happen, this could happen. At least they know which club they belong to.
Right.
And our wives, at the time, women are women. One say, "Oh, I seen you looking at my old man," or "What are you looking at?" or "You're a bitch." And if there was a hassle going on, she has a Chicano's Pride Club T-shirt. They'd call our sergeant at arms. At that time, we had 2 sergeant at arms. I was one of them, and Tony Catucci was another one. So we could have each other's back, and we'd go and take care of everything. So if there's hassles between the women, they know which club to go to. So we'd take care of ourselves.
You guys didn't have hydraulics, right? In the beginning, you didn't allow hydraulics.
No, we didn't. The reason we did that is because hydraulics was a fairly new thing at that time, and we noticed a lot of times hoses bust and stuff like that. And if we're on a run and stuff, and if you blow a hose and stuff like that, you're stuck. We can't fix it. We don't know anything about hydraulics. If it's original, everybody knew how to fix an old car because we were all backyard mechanics and stuff.
Right. But you guys were all still lowered though, right? That was
yeah.
Look to be low.
That was
just no hydraulics.
the way we used to lower it. It was we used to take leaf springs off of the back. We took about 3 leaf springs, then we'd usually get a pack of cigarettes and put it underneath, and that was as low as we'd go. That's how we'd measure it.
Oh man, that's it. Huh? That was the measuring stick.
That was a measuring stick. And the first big car show we went to was in Fresno. We drove over there, and a lot of people used to trailer their cars and stuff like that, but not us. That's how proud we were of our cars. All our cars, we drove them over there. And nobody, we had all these parts, but we never broke down.
Yeah. So I know some clubs had really strict guidelines to be in the club, right? You had to have really good paint jobs, and your chrome, it had to be super polished and all that. Did you guys have any rules like that? No? You're part of the family, you're in the club. And that's
Well, my first car, my 50 Chevy was primered. Well, it was yellow at first, a canary yellow. And I primered it a baby blue. And I had some Supremes on it. And a lot of our cars were some of our cars were primered and some of them were painted. We didn't have no extravagant, some a good paint job and stuff, because we're a family club. A family club can't afford to pay $2,000 for a paint job and stuff like that. We got a family to support.
Yeah. So it wasn't like you guys were just a group of young single men, right? Like some clubs were. There's just a bunch of young guys, and so they had money to do that, but because you elevated the family more, but you still wanted to be a part of the scene, right? So their crews representing for the culture.
As a matter of fact, I was one of the youngest members. I'm 70 years old right now.
Okay.
And I was one of the youngest members.
Okay.
We actually had two black berets in the club. We had a brown beret from Milpitas in the club, and we also had a member from a group called La Familia. They're not the prison gang, because they were called La Familia. They were mostly Ford Motor Company employees.
Oh, okay.
And we all worked in the community, so we were community activists.
Yeah.
So we have that in our background.
Right. In your opinion, how do you think that lowriding is an extension of the Chicano movement from the '60s, or do you think that
there is a connection, because lowriding's been around for a long time. My uncle, I remember he had a car called the Little Star in Soledad, and it was a 50 Chevy painted baby blue, and it was lowered. And I remember as a kid, my mom driving it one time, and she got pulled over and got a ticket for having the pipes too loud, because my uncle had a split exhaust. He split the exhaust, and I was covered up. And I mean, 6 cylinders are louder than V8s, And she got a ticket, and I remember because my uncle was a lowrider. One of my uncles was a Pachuco.
Oh, okay.
My mom used to be a Pachuca, and she never admitted it until one time. I don't know what we were talking about. She said, "Oh yeah, well I remember when I was a Pachuca, on our pumps we used to put razor blades in there. So when we fight with the girls and they grab their hair, they cut their fingers."
Oh wow! Here or is it down
in Soledad?
In Soledad. Okay.
In Soledad, yeah.
Wow. So right there's a direct connection between the Pachucos, the culture, and then lowriding, just through the family ties.
Yeah. Well, it's been around Chicano for a long time with the raza. A lot of the people involved in lowriding, were involved one way or another in the Chicano movement. Because back in the late 60s and early 70s, we had a lot of problems with police and stuff, and it was still continuing with lowriding. So there is a connection with that. It's part of our culture, and it's part of a gathering. That's what we're doing. So there is a connection.
Right.
Everybody was aware of some kind of a movimiento, and some kind of pride and history that we had. And they kept it alive. A lot of them kept it alive through their lowriding and fixing up the cars.
Did you guys have an area that you would park in? So I know a lot of clubs that kind of fill up certain parking lots, or they go to like Disco East and be in that parking lot.
Well,
did Chicano's Pride have a spot that they would go to?
Oh yeah. Well, up on Story Road, right near Jackson, there was a burger place called Boludos, and so we'd have our meetings there sometimes. And we got to know the owner, and he gave us permission to park in his parking lot. And we said, "Yeah, well, the cops are going to kick us out." And he said, "Well, I'll give you guys a note. I'll give you guys a letter that you guys got my permission to park in there, because everywhere we parked, the problem with them kicking all the lowriders out of the parking lots and stuff was trash. Beer cans here and beer cans there. And what we did, we policed our own. We picked up our trash everywhere we went. A guy from Little noticed that we always picked up our trash, so he gave us permission to park there. We would trash parking lot. And when the cruising night came around, other cars would go over there, and then the cops would come, and they wanted to kick us out. We said, "Well, we're not going anywhere." No, you're trespassing, you're loitering. I said, "No, we got permission to stay here." We said, "Oh yeah, show me." And we pulled out a letter. And this is from the owner. It's a written letter saying that our club has permission to park there. And what they did is they kicked everybody else out except us.
So we have to post up there and hang out, huh?
Oh yeah.
So if we do talk about hydraulics again, kind of fast forward a little bit, who was the first one to get into the club with hydraulics? Vince
Chavez. He had a 53 pickup, 53 Chevy pickup. He was the first one to put hydraulics on it. Everybody was mad about it. Oh, you put hydraulics on there, stuff like that. And he kept it. We didn't kick him out of the club or not, but that was his thing. Matter of fact, Vince Chavez became president of the club. He was the president for a while. While I was in the club, he was the only one that had hydraulics in his car, and his pickup. Yeah.
All right, so there's a really popular documentary called Lowriders of the Barrio. And in that documentary, there's the dance that you guys throw, right? It's featured in that documentary. And I think it was a zoot suit theme dance? So how did that get connected, and how was that? How did you organize that event, and how did it end up on the documentary?
It was like a Halloween party, but we got together over here on the Hawaiian Gardens. That's where we used to hang out. They gave us permission to throw a dance there. We all went to the secondhand store and bought some suits and made our own zoot suits and stuff.
Okay.
And we went over there and we had a really successful dance. We raised some money. A lot of our money went for our cruises to car shows and stuff like that, and also to feed the family. All the money that we gathered, would help us pay for the motels and stuff. But we would not buy any booze because we were drinkers. We drink a lot. We'd have to buy our own booze. So we make sure the family was taken care of first. Okay. That's the main thing. Family. Like I said, we're a family club. And if we had if we did camping at a park, we'd pay for the rent of the park. That's what our money would go to, just so we can make the events.
So kind of going back into the zoot suit theme, I know there was a period of time where zoot suits weren't as popular with the youth as much, and then it looks like in the 70s, everybody started to wear them again. What do you think that was?
That's from, the zoot suit came out in the 40s.
Right.
They came out of, I think, El Paso, Texas. My uncle Ray was a zoot suiter. He was a pachuco in LA. And I think he was one of the guys that got beat up when they had the zoot suit riots over there in LA. So the pachuco has been around for a long time because the pachuco, in El Paso where the zoot suit supposedly originated at, El Paso they call it chuco. That's a nickname. And you got pachuco. That's where the word pachuco originated. Came out of there and eventually came to California because people from Texas would come to, mostly farm workers, would come to California and work in the fields and stuff. And they brought that over to us, and they just continued it. The kids started, the youth started liking that at the time. That was in the 40s.
Yeah, so I guess I'm wondering, why did it get popular again in the 70s? In Lowrider magazine, if you look through the pages, there's always a zoot suit that's featured, whether it's on the cover or a dance that's happening and someone's wearing the zoot somewhere.
I think Lowrider magazine had a lot to do with it.
Okay.
Publicity, because it was the first Lowrider magazine that was out there, and people would see, zoot suit, and this that, and then they had pictures there of lowriders pasados, and a lot of them were in zoot suits. So I think that's the way the zoot suits came back. And also the movie Zoot Suit that was put out by Luis Valdez, that made it popular also. Okay. As a matter of fact, I got a picture of it here of me and my wife at the dance at the Hawaiian Gardens.
Oh, is that right?
I'm gonna have to send it to you.
Okay. That'd be great. Yeah, because that documentary is really cool because it shows a lot of this lowrider life from San Jose, right? From cars hopping to going cruising and then getting their cars ready to go to the dance, and then it ends with your guys' dance, which is pretty
Yeah,
cool.
well, you seen the guy with the black shirt and the hat that was dancing, that old man?
White hat, I think.
Yeah, that lady that was dancing with her, that was my wife.
Okay, so you brought up Lowrider Magazine and how that kind of put Zoot Suits back into the map, but you guys were featured on the cover of Lowrider Magazine. You were one of the first car clubs to be featured on there, right?
We're the first car club and the only car club to ever come out on the the cover of Lowrider Magazine to this day.
In terms of like the entire club being featured on there? Oh, okay.
My car didn't come out on it because it broke down that day. I couldn't get it started. But I had to watch from a distance, man. I was so hurt.
Oh, man. So how did that come about then?
You know, I knew Sonny Madrid and Rudy Madrid. They're the ones that got the Lowrider Magazine together. And the photographer, Larry Gonzalez.
Yeah.
He's from Salinas. And I know him from Salinas because I'm from Soledad. And, he was the photographer. And, he liked our club because, we're a lot of old Chevys. And he was the one. They were. As a matter of fact, we come out in a lot of lowrider magazines. I think we were one of the most popular clubs to come out in the magazine. A lot of times, you could just see our cars. You might not see any names on it saying this Chicano's Pride and stuff, but you'll see me and my wife are walking in one of the lowrider magazines. We're estamos abrazados and we're walking. There's a picture of us and. They just liked us. They like what we were about because we're about the same age.
Okay.
And the Chicano's Pride. I think we were pretty influential in the community because in Soria and King when we were having all these hassles with the cops, the Disco East and stuff like that. We got together and we met with all the clubs, and we asked them to get 2 members of each club to represent the club, and we all met, and we formed the very first lowrider concilio in San Jose.
What year was that?
That was about 77, 78.
So you were dealing with issues of how to deal with the police.
Yeah.
Was there any other big things that happened through the concilio?
We met with the police department, because especially the ones that were patrolling that area. We met with them so they get to know us, introduce ourselves, and we get to meet them. So we'll have try to set up kind of a relationship, so we can show them we're not bad guys. This is what we're about. All we want to do is cruise, and you guys are harassing us stuff. We ended up meeting with them, and they didn't bother us. We even organized baseball games with them. Those were rough games. They were really, oh yeah, it was a dirty games. We'd go out. And one time I was sliding into second base, and while I was sliding in there, I swept the feet out of the cop and knocked him on his ass. Or the guys on the bases, the cops would run him over and stuff like that. It was brutal.
Yeah.
But it was fun. Then after that, we had a barbecue and we were just talking and stuff.
Okay.
We got to know the police in there, and that's when a lot of the harassment and the hassling started lowering. They wouldn't stop us as much. They do the usual stuff. They look for drugs or drinking and driving and stuff like that. There's nothing we could do about that.
Right.
But actually pulling us over and harassing us for cruising and stuff, no. And we, Chicano's Pride was very influential in that. The cops would leave us alone. They would not hassle us at all. They knew we were a family club. I think our club had the oldest members of the whole scene. We're veteranos.
Yeah.
And they supported us. I believe they did.
Yeah.
And the concilio, they got together and it unified all the clubs together. The clubs started organizing softball tournaments and stuff, which we participated in, and New Styles participated in. They were our rivals because on the tournaments, either we would take first place or they would take first place.
Okay.
That was New Styles. They were our rivals, and they used to practice and stuff. And we noticed that every time we had a softball practice, we didn't losing a game, so we didn't practice at all. And after the game, we'd have a barbecue and drink and stuff like that, and have a good time. But we have all our cars parked there. Our wives were there. Our kids were there. Like I said, it was a family thing. We started making a lot of these clubs go more family oriented. We're getting more family oriented. There was more unity because we're veteran. Most of them were veteranos at the time. Because I was one of the youngest members, and I guess they seen it and they might have liked that. We'd treat the women equal. We wouldn't harass them or nothing. Beating up a woman or anything, no, it was taboo, man. You respect the woman because we got those values from the movimiento, from the black berets and brown berets and stuff like that. We respected our women because our women are key to our movement and stuff like that. They're very influential. They're a key figure, even in a revolution. Women are key figures in a revolution. Yeah, then they started having women's clubs. They had the Teen Angels, Charlie's Angels, Teen Angels. We had a Chicano's Pride bike club, and our women were they were part of the club. They had say in any of the decisions and stuff we did. They would throw in their 2 cents, like we're planning to run. Oh, well, what about this? Well, this could happen. This could, we'd always have the woman's side opinion on what could happen or what to prepare for.
Yeah.
So we were pretty unified in that.
That's cool.
We were #1 club in Northern California. We had a chapter in San Francisco. We had one chapter in Visalia, one in Stockton. We had one in San Jose, and we had a chapter in Salinas.
Oh, okay.
That's how big we were.
Yeah. How big were you guys at like your biggest point?
Oh God, it's hard to say. Geez, it's really hard to say how big we were, but I know that one time we got together, we counted maybe about 35 cars. That was from Visalia and Stockton, San Francisco, San Jose. We had about 35 cars at one time. I remember counting around that many.
Okay.
All Chevys.
Damn. All Chevys?
All Chevys.
When you think about Cinco de Mayo for the lowrider culture, right, and how they would bring the parades out for lowriders, were you guys a part of that, or were you against that?
We were part of that, But at that time, everybody thought Cinco de Mayo was Mexican Independence Day, but it wasn't. It's the Battle of Puebla when Puebla kicked out the French, the Batalla de Puebla. But we'd have a lot of cars in there. Matter of fact, I got a painting that's about 4 feet by 4 feet. It's the Mexican Eagle, and on one of the panels we put it in the back of and tie it to the back of the panel, and we take it, and we have the girls dressed up in Mexican style, like dancers and stuff like that. We're participants in that. Just cruising. My son was real small. He'd stand up on the seat and put his arm out the window and be cruising. He'd see your girl and yell, "Niña!" He was about 2 or 3 years old.
Oh wow!
Matter of fact, we were going down First Street. I had a beer, and then I was drinking my beer while we were in the parade, and a cop pulls up in a motorcycle. I go, "Oh man!" I put it down, and I go, "Man, I'm gonna get busted." I turned around, and I looked at him, and the cop tells me, "Daniel." I go, "Gilbert, what are you doing, man?" He said, "No." The people were saying, "Oh, this guy's gonna get busted," and they seen that we started talking and laughing, and I knew the cop. He ends up being the brother of my master in martial arts.
Oh wow!
He was a cop, and he was just cruising right next to me, and we were just talking, and people were just looking at us. That was an experience, man.
Yeah. Every time I've only seen photos of the Cinco de Mayo cruises where lowriders they're like a featured part of that parade, right?
Yeah. We were always involved. September 16th, Cinco de Mayo.
So where did they start then? Did they start from King Road and go all the way down?
No, it started on Santa Clara. Santa Clara. When did it start? Oh, it started up in San Carlos, I think it was, on 2nd Street in San Carlos, and then we'd come straight up 1st Street and go all the way to St. James Park. I think that was the route that we were taking.
You park there, or you make a loop?
No, we'd park there. We'd park there and enjoy our cars. People would come and enjoy our cars, ask us questions about it, and stuff like that. Wherever we went, we always drew a crowd.
And every time I ask someone about lowrider culture, it's like Chicano's Pride is usually one of the first clubs that comes up.
Yeah, we got together as an official club about I figure late '75, early '70s, about late '75. That's when we made ourselves an official club.
When people talk about the legacy of Chicano's Pride, right, maybe 10, 20 years from now, what do you think is? We kind of touched a lot of little points, but if you were to kind of put it into a summary, what do you think the legacy of Chicano's Pride is?
Well, the legacy is I hope it continues. It's being a family-oriented club, and take away the stereotype of lowriding of nothing but troublemakers and stuff. And matter of fact, up to this day, Chicano's Pride is still in existence. They got a chapter in San Francisco and one in Stockton. It's the youngsters that took it over, and the veteranos. Like I said, I'm the only original member left, of the founders, should I say? Because me and Maturi were the founders. Randy's still around. And I think Simon Perez is still around, but the two founders, I'm the only one that's left. And it's a good feeling to know that I believe that we left a legacy behind, and we were very influential in the lowrider culture. Because when people talk about Chicano Pride, when I hear people mention it, I pick up an ear, and still hearing it around, it makes me proud. It makes me really, really proud, that I helped do that, and with the skills and knowledge that I got, organizing in the community with the berets, and the Chicano movement, it all intertwined. So, we had organizational skills, we had people skills, we were already known as Black Berets and stuff like that. So, that league, I hope that legacy continues, and these youngsters nowadays, they wear the plaque, and, they're proud of it. I thought the ones I've talked to, they're really proud of the club. And I gave them history, because they didn't know all the history. They just had bits and pieces of it, and they like the history.
Do you think you covered most of that history in this interview here? Is there anything else that might have been left out?
Pretty much. Well, another thing martial arts. We got into part of getting the community together is that we formed I was involved in martial arts, and we formed a school, a free martial arts school at Lee Matson Junior High School. There was a lot of drug problems and stuff like that, and we had over 150 students. And a lot of the students that we trained, I used to see them lowriding and stuff like that, and a lot of them, they were fighters, they were bad, but they would. I think we helped them control their temperament and stuff like that, and they had more control. They wouldn't fight unless it was necessary. So we had martial arts involved in it. We had Chicano activists involved in it. It's a mezcla. It's a mezcla. Like people, when I was working, people asked me, "Hey, could you, to translate this? Do you speak Spanish?" I go, "No." They said, "Well, I heard you." I said, "I wasn't speaking Spanish." They said, "What were you speaking?" I said, "I was speaking Mexican." They say, "What's the difference?" I said, "There is a difference. Spanish is spoken in Spain. Mexican is a mixture of English, Spanish, French, and Nahuatl. Nahuatl, which is a native language. It's a mixture of that. Just like here, we don't speak English. We speak United States, which is a mixture of many, many languages. And a lot of people don't do that. They can't comprehend that. Just like, I live in Arizona, and people, you just tell me, "Oh, it's, so you're Spanish, huh?" I go, no, I'm Mexican. Well, you speak Spanish? I said, oh, and I tell the Indians, well, you must be English. No, I'm not native. No, well, you speak English.
So during the time you were in Chicano's Pride, you were also still doing the martial arts?
Yeah.
And then involving kids in that?
I got involved in martial arts in 1968. And up to this day, I'm still involved in martial arts. I've got 2 black belts. I'm a 9th degree black belt in one style and a 7th degree black belt in another style. And I'm considered a grandmaster. And I'm inducted in the Martial Arts Hall of Fame. I picked up a world title back in '81, second in the world. I picked up multiple national and international titles in LA, fighting in the tournament scene up and down California. And we used to do backyard fighting for money. And the only protective gear we used was the cup and the mouthpiece, and there was no such thing as rounds. You fight until somebody gets knocked out. You know, like I said, we started up we had a few martial arts programs throughout East San Jose. We had one in the Roosevelt Center, at the Orlando Center, even at the Hank Cuoca Center. We had a martial arts classes there. You know, they were all for free. It was all for the community. You know, for the youngsters to teach them discipline. You know, martial arts I think had a lot to do with their upbringing, because when they got involved in martial arts, their grades improved in school. There was more interest in sports, and you know, they were being more respectful to their parents and stuff. You know? So martial arts have a lot of influence, a lot of discipline.
So there might be people walking around San Jose that were trained by your guys' martial arts, and you might change some lives out of it.
We've had hundreds and hundreds of martial arts students and hundreds of black belts. Matter of fact, one of them is over here.
Yeah.
Somewhere.
Yeah. So this one isn't really lowrider related, but I just want to get your definition of what does Chicano mean to you?
Chicano has been a word that's been around a long time. The Aztecas, they had Chicano warriors, you know, and you know, they were elite warriors. And going back a little bit, when Chicano first started came out, it was derogatory. They would say, oh, you know, it's a lower class Mexican and this and that, you know. But during the Chicano movement, you know, we adopted the word Chicano because, you know, we weren't at that time, we weren't accepted very well in Mexico because we're not Mexicans, you know, and we weren't accepted in the United States because we're from Mexican descent. So we started using the word Chicano, and we built it up to identify ourselves. You know, that's who we are. We're people of the sun. And the word Chicano is being forgotten. They're calling us Hispanics, Latinx, and stuff like that. You know, we fought hard to identify ourselves as Chicanos, like Corky, Cesar, you know, Reyes Lopez Tijerina. We all adopted the word Chicano to call ourselves. It's our own identity that we got for ourselves that nobody could take away from us. That's what we are, Chicanos.
Damn, that's powerful, man. It made me emotional right there, just being able to call myself that, a proud Chicano, but then also hearing it from an originator, right? Someone that was there during the movimiento, and that's crazy, man. I love that. Man, I appreciate you taking the time to just go through all these questions, man. It's really an honor to be sitting with you.
No, the privilege is mine, brother. You know, it has to be told, it has to be documented. You know, nobody else. You know, I admire what you're doing.
Yeah.
That you're preserving it.
I appreciate it, man. Thank you.